Y'all came to this podcast for different reasons, but y'all came to the same place. So now I'm asking more of you than I ever have before, maybe all. Sure as I know anything, I know this. We are going to continue to talk about Firefly for a very long time. So no more running. We aim to misbehave. Gee, I wonder what the topic of today's session is going to be. Hey, everybody.
Star Wars?
Yeah, that's it. We're going to talk Star Wars.
That's like a session from now
Castle.
or something.
It's Monkey Business.
We talk Castle?
Yes, we can talk Castle. Space
Yay.
Cowboys.
Space Cowboy.
And today
Halloween.
we're going to
Halloween
have
episode,
a
yes.
truncated discussion about a truncated show. And
There's a lot of comics and stuff.
a lot of comics, a lot of extended universe stuff. There's a lot of fan fiction out there.
There's
Is
a
there fan fiction about
role-playing
everything? There's a
game.
role-playing game. And we're going to talk about the Joss
everything.
Whedon genius of Firefly.
Gone
13
but not
episodes
forgotten.
and a lifetime of disappointment coming if you're a fan of this show, which I am. Millions of people have tried to pull a resurrection, of the likes of Star Trek, pulled back from the brink there, but it didn't work out so well. But that's all right. That's fine. We can handle it. We really can.
Do you want some tissues?
I need a tissue, please.
Tito,
Start
get him a
crying.
tissue.
Breaks down sobbing.
Set in the year 2517. The best quote I could come up with, I was reading in this interview with Joss Whedon, and he basically described it as 9 people looking into the blackness and seeing 9 different things. All right, so nothing changes. Technology advances, but it's still the same political, ethical, moral problems that we deal with today. We can boil it down to how far we haven't come as humanity sometimes, but a really kind of a great way of having that social commentary as well as that whimsical looking forward that sci-fi likes to bring us. Premiered on September 20th of 2002, canceled after only 11 episodes. 13 are on the DVD.
I don't know if they showed them all. I don't
No,
remember.
they never even got around to showing all the
No,
episodes
but
that
they
they
showed
produced.
them out of order to begin
And they
with.
showed them out of order. I think Fox really kind of bungled the whole thing to begin with.
Yes.
Yeah, they did.
Okay, they kind of they insisted that they show out of order. They wanted to jump right in. They kind of blew
They
the story
wanted
right off the
action
bat.
because they showed the pilot and they wanted, could you make something with more action?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like they said, well, the only one we had more action was a train robbery.
The train job.
So we'll do that one first.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't need to know how they all get together.
No, why would we need backstory? Why would we need to understand?
So
And-
going with that,
Go ahead.
do you think that Fox was even committed to this show from the get-go, or they just did it for the heck of it?
No.
No. I mean, well, think about it. Think of what Fox has had on the air over the years. I mean, yeah, they've had some some good shows over the years, but they've
Harmon's
also...
Head?
Yeah. Yeah. You think so?
No.
No. I was going to say... I was about to wait, really? And then...
Because it just seems like they didn't want to let things flow naturally with the show. They wanted to control every aspect,
Mm-hmm.
and by wanting to show things out of order and do this and do that, it just makes me wonder that if they committed to it and then somewhere in a high-end conference room realized, oh, we don't want to do this, but we've already invested too much money, so let's just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to cancel it when
And
we deem
keep-
it necessary.
And then keep what are some of the low lights of Fox TV out there? Were they behind
Hotel
the Kardashians?
Baltimore.
Hotel Baltimore. Yeah, I mean all these shows that they hung in there on for
Joe
multiple
Millionaire,
seasons. Joe, oh God,
Oh.
but here they are. They're canceling Firefly.
Well, science fiction shows cost a lot of money to make because it's space. Space is expensive.
special effects.
Yeah.
Special effects can get expensive. Let's go around the table real quick. Now, Billy, you've watched Firefly?
Oh yeah, I love it. I didn't catch on till maybe long after it was canceled.
Mm-hmm.
No, a friend of mine handed me the DVDs. Said, "Watch this." I said, "Okay," and I loved it.
And I'm ready for season 2, and that's
Yeah.
the big joke among the diehard fans. Who's your favorite character of the originals?
Ooh, that's a good question. Jane is almost the easy one because but I almost think Mal.
Okay.
Mal,
The captain himself?
Yeah, I think the captain is my favorite.
Tanya?
Kaylee.
Kaylee? Okay. And you notice with Joss Whedon, there are certain signatures. There's going to be the heavy-duty badass. There's going to be the thoughtful one. There's going to be the philosophical one. Then there's going to be the cute one. Let's go back to Willow in Buffyverse.
Wait, there was no one big guy in Buffy. Unless you're
No,
talking
Buffy
Angel.
was the big guy.
Oh,
Come on.
She's the badass.
Well, no, think about it though. Also, Angel. You know, Spike filled the role
but
for a
he
little
was
while.
a brooding guy.
Well, there's always a brooding guy in every story. It's not just a Joss Whedon thing. I mean, Batman, for crying out loud. Brooding guy. All right. Your favorite character there, Becca?
I don't know any characters.
You don't know any.
Have you not seen it?
Oh,
Oh, my God.
We're gonna have to school her.
Yeah.
Marathon.
That's it. I've
Yeah,
got.
that's okay. She's fired.
No, she's not
No.
fired. She
And
just
wait,
needs
she's
to be.
my intern too.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I have the authority to fire her.
Yes, well, no.
Your homework is to go find Firefly and watch it.
There
as
you
soon as
go.
I find time.
As long as my wife isn't here, I'll throw in Zoe. She loved Zoe.
Zoe was a
Zoe.
great character. Very balanced and had that dry sense of humor.
Yep.
From
And
I'm waiting for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Cleopatra
Tony's like chomping at the bit.
25.
Oh, the Cleopatra 25 one. That was a freaking hilarious show. Tony, who's your favorite of them?
It's gonna sound weird, but the ship Serenity.
You can just
The ship has its own character and its own nuances.
It's got quirks.
That its own
That's the thing.
quirks.
And a good sci-fi show, the ship is, like think of it, like Star Trek. The Enterprise is its own character.
Andromeda.
Andromeda, and because the Andromeda has its own avatar, she was very hot. And then
Lessa Doig. Yes.
and Doctor
and
Who.
she's married to
One of
Daniel
the-
Jackson.
Yep.
From
Stargate.
Yeah, Stargate.
Yeah. In Doctor Who, the TARDIS is in essence its own character. So so pointing out the Serenity is a great tip. Now for me, one of my favorite characters was I had my two favorites were Simon and Inara. The ones you don't expect. I mean, Simon didn't
I do
really
like Inara.
drive a lot of the action, but I like the way he kind of added almost a sense of reality to it sometimes. Even though he was this above average person, I like how he just kind of observed what everybody was doing and going, you guys are out of your freaking mind, right? Like one of my favorite lines was in the we talked about the Jane episode where he's the hero of Canton, and they're looking at the statue of Jane, and he looks and goes, this is what going mad feels like, and no, this is what must going mad feels like. I get it. How about you, Wayne? Who's your favorite?
Book.
The Shepherd book.
Because there's this whole undercurrent that you don't have no idea who he is.
Exactly.
Except like,
Thought it
hi,
was
I'm
so
just
great.
I'm just a little priest here.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, I got shot. Here's my axe. Get me, and then we got to get him in.
Yeah.
It's like you don't know who you got, but we know.
The good book is very clear on killing, but it's a little fuzzy on kneecaps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Helen's favorite character's Wash.
Okay.
And she was so...
Well, the comic relief, but also he had a level of morality. He kind of
did.
made him stop and think every so often. Are we really doing this, people? Dee, how about you? Who's your favorite?
I never got one because by the time I found it, it was gone.
Aww.
So I've never really bothered to spend the time to watch it because it disappeared as fast as it showed up.
All right.
Do you have a
well,
DVD player?
We're sending Becca over with the DVDs. That you're going to watch them together.
I have them.
I've got 2 sets.
He's got 2 sets.
we got everyone covered.
We got it
Marathon, Firefly.
Firefly Marathon. How about you, Sybil?
Wash and Simon. Those are my 2 favorites.
All right. Curse you for your sudden but inevitable betrayal.
It just goes back to the Enterprise scene doing AQ
Oh, yeah.
with the dinosaurs, and then Kelsey and Emily coming in looking for
And
the puzzle
stealing 'em.
pieces and stealing this, and then like, oh, that's mine, and that's mine, and
And
that's
Alex
mine.
is so betrayed.
They're
Oh,
like,
that
they're like,
was
what?
all the videos that we did for FC3 so far. That's been my favorite. Just that
Oh, yeah.
montage of stuff was just so much fun to do, and the kids just rose to the challenge. It was great.
With the little Hawaiian shirt
the whole-
on.
yeah.
Yes, that kind of stuff.
And I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but but
They
Wayne,
canceled the series.
I'm not. Do you know where I'm going right now?
No.
Then shush. All right. So- all
Do
right.
we have something to throw at him?
No. Ha
Skull.
Yeah, throw Herman. But no, not to give away any spoilers, but Wayne had touched on Shepherd Book and the mystery of his background and whatnot. And Tanya, your husband Randy had given me those graphic novels that had been drawn that give you Book's background. You actually find out where Shepherd Book comes from, what his motivation is. I speak good English. And how he came to be on the Serenity and what it meant for him to be there. So I'm not going to give any of it away, but if you get a chance out there, dear listener, there are graphic novels. They're called The Shepherd's Tale. There's 3 of them.
I need to find those.
And they're phenomenal. They're just a lot of...
I think we might have them in my house.
I think you do, because that's where I got them. But they're a great read, and they tell you all about this character. And like it said in the book or in the movie, Mail asks Shepard Book, one of these days you're going to have to tell me about how you know so much. And Shepard's like, no, I'm not. And you kind of get that idea that, no, you're really not going to find out. But then it was great. You kind of get that peek into his world. So it was a very cool, very well written story.
But the thing about this show is it's such a great combination of drama, comedy, action. It's
with a Western
with
theme
the Western theme to it.
It really
it's a space cowboy story.
Talking about speaking good English today.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm not a
around.
Western fan genre per se, but this one just sucked me in.
Well, if you look at we talked about Killjoys. Killjoys is a Western.
I feel Firefly is what Gene Roddenberry originally wanted Star Trek to be, because Gene Roddenberry wanted Star Trek to be a space western.
Wagon Train to the Stars. That's what Gene commonly described. For the confused look across the table there, in a lot of interviews, Gene Roddenberry, when talking about when he was creating Star Trek, that was what the thought that was in his mind was the wagon train to the stars. He wanted that frontier. That field, that exploring out.
Circle the wagons?
No, that may have been necessary.
Doctor, if you notice, the doctor, like McCoy or the other doctor was in the pilot, they're all Western actors because he wanted the old doctor.
Yep.
He wanted the doctor to be the older
that old
character.
country doctor feel.
Yep.
And so then having that whole, the advanced sci-fi, the spaceships, the guns, the going out and exploring different planets, but with that Western kind of feel to it give you that pioneer spirit. So,
I learned something new today.
There you go. See, we're educational and informative. Sybil, I know that you were really especially jonesing to be part of this particular conversation today. I knew you were really excited about it. So what about Firefly is what really kind of appeals to you the most, that you really just need to be a part of it?
It's one of those shows that it brings in so many different elements for people who again, like you said, you love the sci-fi, you have that. You love Westerns, you have that. You also have the alliance versus the independence. You have, the people versus the government. You have all of this all boiled into these 9 individuals and their fight to just stay alive.
Plus, it's well-rounded characters that you want to hang out with.
And that's a point that I want to bring up is I think Joss Whedon has always been very good at the story is always good and very deep, but it's secondary to the people who are involved in it.
And even Jane may not always be likable, but you don't dislike him.
Yeah.
Doesn't he go to his bunk often?
No, just that one. I'll be in my bunk.
And he wanted to trade his gun for Mal's wife.
Right.
I mean,
Mal was married?
He betrayed.
It was all a sham.
Characters.
Basically, they run into this con artist who was played by Christina Hendricks. And
it's one of my favorite episodes.
It's just a great episode. He suddenly finds himself that he's married to this girl, and come on, every show needs a hot redhead. That's all I'm putting out there. And he brings out Vera. This is when you're introduced to Vera, my very favorite gun, and he's like, here, I will give you this gun if you let me have the girl. It's pure Jane. It's in his mind, the logic made sense.
This is my favorite gun.
I mean, yes, Mal, you have to understand, this is my favorite gun. What makes it so significant? No, it's my favorite gun.
It's never done him wrong.
I want to go to the crummy town where I'm the hero.
Yeah. But I think it's like, Billy and I were just touching on it a moment ago. The characters, you want to see what they're up to. You want to see what they're talking about. And the story becomes secondary to that, to see how the characters are going to handle these situations that they find themselves in. What are they going to say? How are they going to behave? And so it kind of made it a 1-2 punch. You into these characters' lives. You want to know more about them. You want to be a part of them. And the stories were secondary, as I was saying, but they're just as good. They're just as developed and just as cool as to see how things were unfolding. And I think the movie, when they kind of start tying a whole bunch of stuff together in the movie, it really kind of, it opens your eyes to just how far the rabbit hole went, I suppose, is how I'll describe it. Oh, I'm sorry. This just in. Fox has heard that we were talking about Firefly. They've canceled the podcast.
Oh.
Bye,
so
everybody.
I guess we're going to have to.
And this one will never even air.
This one will never even. Yeah, it's just. We were making that joke when Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was getting close to being released for the first time. I made the joke on Facebook at one point that Fox had heard about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Joss Whedon was behind it, so they canceled it. And we're like, somebody had to tell Fox that it's not even on your channel. Oh. It's not even on your network. That's just lifetime of disappointment. We're still never going to be over the fact that Fox canceled Firefly.
Well, they've canceled Dollhouse, too, and that was another one of Joss
That was a
Whedon's.
good
You know,
one.
I never watched it. I never got around to watching Dollhouse, but there's another Joss Whedon, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And
He was high after Buffy and Angel, and it's like, we'll bring him over to Fox. We'll make him a couple of shows. He can do a couple of shows over here, and then cancel both of them.
Well, it seems that the longevity, I guess, of the passion for Firefly, that's accumulated a cult following that Dollhouse hasn't.
I think I would even say that the Firefly fandom is even more diehard than even Star Trek.
No.
Well, I have to. I mean, Star Trek has longevity in terms of it's been around for 50 years, but think about it. Star Trek, it had 2 seasons of the original series was canceled. Let me get to that. It had 2 seasons it was canceled, and then the fans came out of the woodwork and pushed for the 3rd. Am I right in that?
Yeah.
In how that worked?
Kind of.
Okay, and then it lived on in syndication, and over the years has developed this massive mythology crossing all of these shows, so it's brought in millions of viewers.
You wouldn't get conventions, well, at least media conventions, without Star Trek.
Right, which we've touched on in a previous podcast where I asked the question. I said, "Do comic book conventions become what they are today without Star Trek?"
Yeah.
And we're all in agreement that no, it wouldn't have had the firepower without that.
Perhaps it would be better to say that the fans of Firefly are more loyal per se than.
Well, I wouldn't go that far because there's some diehard Star Trek fans. There's diehard Doctor Who fans, diehard Star Wars fans. But I'm wondering, if Star Trek had only served
Deadpool fans.
There you go.
I think my point was there's so many great shows that have been canceled.
Yeah.
There's the whole brilliant but canceled thing. What made this one special over, say, Dollhouse or any of the other ones that are out there?
I would say it has to be the people.
Yeah, I'm
It's
just
the cast.
thinking the
It's the
cast,
cast.
the dynamics with the cast, with Sean and Jewel State going on and doing an episode, I think, of Warehouse 13.
Yep.
Stargate. She was a doctor on Stargate Atlantis.
Yep,
Yes.
she did take over for that.
And with Nathan moving over to Castle for a while, Adam Baldwin showed up on several episodes of that, and you could just see just how they just get back into their own characters and chemistry and things like that.
Don't Nathan Fillion and Alan Tudyk have a show called
Con
Man?
Man.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a huge chemistry between all those characters that I think.
And that's a tribute to Joss Whedon as well because he brought these people together. He picked them.
They were in Buffy, too.
A lot of them were in Buffy. Not everybody, but a lot of them were in Buffy. But I also think the way he structured the production of Firefly had a lot to do with it. The Firefly itself was across 2 sets.
Yes.
Or were they on the same soundstage? So they were kind of connected.
So.
But you had a continuity in the structure of the set itself. And sure, that made it easy to film, get the 2 units working. But there were plenty of stories of how the cast, when they were done with a scene, they would gather in the Firefly common room, and they would spend time together because the set just made it easy for them to do that. So there's plenty of stories of how they would be between takes, between scenes, and they'd all be sitting around the dinner table, relaxing and chatting and chewing the fat and whatnot. And that I think added to the chemistry that these people already had working together. They enjoyed working together, but now they're spending this extra time together that a lot of casts probably did not actually have that liberty. So that might have had a lot to do with it, I think, but. What makes the fans so diehard? I think it's the cast, it's the actors, the people behind it, and how they brought those personalities to life.
The guest actors that come in and only are on a couple episodes and things.
Jubal Early was one of my favorite characters.
Was that Mark Shepard's character?
No, that's Badger.
Okay.
But Jubal Early was in one episode. He was the bounty hunter looking for River.
Yes.
And,
I saw that.
And the waxing philosophical as he's going through and trying to capture River. Is that right to you? Does that seem right to you? And the way he was always just protesting, and I just thought it was a funny character.
So yeah, they've had great actors come in on the different episodes that were.
But it was on Fox, and it was like.
Wasn't it on the Friday night time slot?
It was
like
Friday,
8 o'clock.
Yeah, it was a terrible time slot.
I think nowadays more people have seen the DVDs and say Netflix or streaming services than ever
watched
saw
it originally.
Yeah. Maybe didn't even know it existed.
If it was on Sci-Fi Channel, it would still survive. Yes?
Do you guys think
Yeah.
that if Netflix, Amazon Prime had been around when Firefly was on and got canceled, that one of them may have picked it up and it would have lived on for a few more seasons?
I think so, because, I mean, there was enough of an audience for them to make Serenity, the movie. I mean, they had... What canceled TV show has a movie in the theaters after it's canceled? To tie up a loose end.
Really?
Galactica had a movie before it.
Oh, was it before?
TV series.
Not the reboot, the original from the 70s.
There was a movie.
Oh, it was before it was on TV?
Yes.
Just like Buck Rogers in the 25th century.
Okay.
Aaron Gray.
Yeah.
Hello. Anyway.
I mean,
I lost my own thoughts there for a moment.
The thing that I'm brought to mind is, does anyone remember the show Terra Nova?
Yes.
It was canceled, and Netflix was looking into picking it up, but they never did.
It cost a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
That's another thing. It cost a lot of money and never garnered enough fan following because it was just... It had a bad story.
Yeah.
You know, the story wasn't.
It was a
really
decent
there.
premise, but I think a bad delivery.
Yes.
And the thing is, a lot of TV shows out there are decent premises, but just
they didn't have the writing.
Yeah.
Right.
Like Lost, got lost, in my opinion.
And
a lot of people said that.
What struggled with Lost is they said that there would be a new episode this upcoming week and blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden they would rerun something because
but when
World
Lost
Series was playing or something else was going on. And I think that they lost a lot of followers that way because...
To take it off of nerd TV shows, same thing happened with Moonlighting, if you remember.
Yes.
They got
Bruce
married
Willis.
in Moonlighting.
Oh,
that
that was a
killed
shark jump right there.
But, I mean, there were so many production problems. Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd didn't get along.
No.
The episodes took too long to film, and it sort of got lost, and the third season's terrible.
All right, so to bring it back to Firefly, here's a question. Since we're all disappointed, loyal fans, and there are certain things
Except
we
for
would
one.
have loved. Well, you're going to
And
be.
two. Wait,
Becca, I'm sorry to tell you
Deanna.
this right now, but you're going to become a disappointed fan.
I'm okay with that.
That's okay. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around the horn, and I'm going to bring it to Billy first, and then we'll go to the girls on the phone. Here's a question that I'm going to ask to my esteemed panel here today. What are some of the situations that kind of always got hinted at, but you never got to see? What if we could have a season 2, season 3 of Firefly? What are some of the things that you would like to have them do?
The relationship between Mel and Inara.
Okay.
Stop taking my answer.
Okay, book.
Between the
Poor
relationship
Billy.
between Mel and Book.
Are we going back to Slash again? Is that what's happening?
Another very special episode.
Another very special episode of Blossom.
No, but yeah.
The relationship between Mel and Inara?
That just, you could see the chemistry building and building and building, and then nothing.
D?
I think along those same lines. I think with book, even though it did come out in a book in 2010, I think to see it play out on TV would have been interesting because you have a book, but on TV you can say, well, maybe this isn't the way it's meant to be. It could be this. You can infer things from different perspectives from different people instead of having a book tell you this is the way it is.
Okay. Sybil, how about you, hon?
Well, the relationship with Kylie and Simon, for one, because that's
the other one.
He wanted to make sure he protected River, and once he could see that she could protect herself, he was able to finally release and be with Kylie. And just honestly, River coming into her own and her powers and bringing back her own sanity.
Yeah. She towards the end of the movie when she suddenly just becomes this very calm, very gentle little thing, but then
lethal.
Then lethal.
Yeah.
At the
Total
drop of a hat.
badass.
Yeah.
That's
Tony,
like the character that we hadn't touched on is River.
Oh, I'm going there.
Oh, okay.
I'm heading there in that direction. Now, Tanya, you've had your idea stolen a couple of times, but do you have something that you'd like to see have them do?
Come back to me.
Okay.
I have to think.
I can do that. How about you, Tony?
I mean, I think it's all been put on. A lot of what I was thinking was put on the table. Definitely Book. I wanted to know why he was so awesome. Another thing too is I know they touched on this on a couple episodes, but the whole relationship between like the Alliance and the independent systems.
Cool.
I would have liked to see a little bit more of that. Although they did talk about it in the series.
Now, for me, and then I'll head over here to Wayne, but for me, there was this one exchange between Mal and Jane when early on, when Jane said, basically, I didn't betray you because the money wasn't good enough. And Mal looks at Jane and goes, well, what if the money was? Or what if it ever is? And Jane looks back and goes, well, that's going to be an interesting day. For me, I wanted to see that moment. Because you know that Jane's possible. Jane will turn on you. Because for him, it's all practicality. Take care of yourself, get paid. All right?
How can he make a profit?
How can he make a profit off
Evan.
of it? And, you're going to have to meet Evan one of these days, Wayne. You'll understand. But we love our friend, by the way.
We do. We really do
but
love
we
him.
pick on him incessantly. But for me, to see that dynamic between Mal and Jane will serve Mal because he understands that Mal has a certain advantage. But one of these days, the playing field is going to be opened up. And I wanted to see that interaction between what would happen when these... Basically, for me, it just set it up as, here's the Clash of the Titans, Mal and Jane.
Well, remember when there was an episode where it's like, well, you want to be captain? He said, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can't.
Well, I think they kind of played that out a little bit on a couple of those Castle episodes because Castle being the writer and
Jane being... He was like
he was a police...
undercover DEA agent or something
narcotics unit, and he puts Nathan Fillion through the ringer. Like he comes out and he's like, I want to say beat up and things like that, and like.
Well, there's also an episode of Firefly where Jane pulls something and Mal has to address it. All right, I don't want to give it out because I have some people in the room who are still getting. They're still new to this.
But yeah, they definitely play it out on Castle.
So I mean, you see that there's a back and forth, but for me, that was always the thing that kind of caught my attention the most.
Yeah,
Wayne, how about?
I was saying it was the Mal and Jane thing. I want to see more of that happen. I want to see how he got the work for him in the first place. He just. I need a job, and you're going to give me a job.
That's actually touched on in one of the early episodes. Yeah, where basically Jane is on a group of mercenaries. And I think they captured Mal and Zoe.
They captured Mal and Zoe, and Jane was the muscle. And they're like, "Well, how much are you getting at a cut?" And he goes, 7%. They're like, "That sounds kind of low. We could give you more."
They talked Jane into turning on them. Yeah, I thought that was funny as hell.
But I want to see more of that.
You see more of that? Yeah, I'm with that. That's good.
Got a question for you.
Go ahead, Billy.
One perfect season, or the perfect season followed by some mediocrity?
I'd go for one full perfect season. If I can have that full experience from beginning to end and allow Joss Whedon to tell the story that he wanted to tell from start to finish.
Well, basically what I'm asking, is this good enough? Or if they went for a second season and there were some good episodes and some not, it kind of lost its way.
I see where you're going with that. I would want the one perfect season.
But he couldn't tell his whole...
You don't think he could tell the story in one season?
In one season? Well, not 13-episode season,
no.
Definitely.
Maybe a 26?
He'd have, if he knows from the beginning he has 26, and probably so, like the Prisoner. If you know you only have 18 episodes, then you can do a beginning, middle, and end. If you don't know that, you then wind up having to come up with something real quick.
Well, there's a theory that one of the reasons why Firefly has such a huge following is because it was that one amazing season, and it didn't go on to the second where it wasn't as good, and the third they kind of brought it back. That's why a lot of people think that's why Firefly has such a cult following, is because it just was that great of a season that they weren't allowed to get bad and weren't allowed to lose any of the following.
So if I'm kind of reading you correctly, Billy, at this point, if Fox had not intervened, and the episodes were shown in the right order, and a full season was produced.
The season as we know it.
Was produced, but then followed up by a second season that was just as good, but it had some rough patches to it. And then season 3, well, maybe they're running out of ideas.
Yeah.
That kind of a thing.
So, basically what happens to a lot of TV shows.
Right. So would I trade what we have now to have more.
Yes.
Oof.
No, all of a sudden you got Spock's brain.
Oh, God. Yeah. I see where you're going with that question.
Omega Glory.
I don't know if we'd want to try to do that.
Well,
No,
I think...
Do you want more, or are you happy with what we have?
Well, I always want more. Come on. But I'm right now happy with what we have because then it lets our imagination flow to say, well, what could have happened?
What could have happened?
This, that.
I'm going to go out on the limb. I'm going to just say I would have preferred to have more. I mean, and I would take in the risk of maybe some mediocre seasons, but I trust...
Because you'll still have the great season to go back to.
Yeah. But also, I trust Joss Whedon.
And there'll always be episodes that will be high points. There'll be low points, but there'll be high points.
The ones that you totally remember.
It's like Sheldon Cooper and how his philosophy of watching shows. His philosophy is, I will be with the show for the entirety, even if it starts to drop off in quality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember him espousing that on Big Bang Theory. Yep. But yeah, I trust Joss Whedon's writing too. I mean, 7 seasons of Buffy, 5 seasons of Angel, Dollhouse, all of his work with the Marvel Universe. I trust Joss Whedon's writing. So
if they let him write.
If they let it, just take him off the leash and let him run.
Dee, what were you saying?
I can kind of relate to that. I mean, I didn't really get into Firefly because it was gone before I had the chance. Chris knows I'm a huge Aaron Sorkin fan. I think the man is...
Oh, God.
Yeah, me too.
Yep.
He did a show called The Newsroom. It ran for 3 seasons.
And then it got cut short.
The first season was spectacular. The second was kind of because Aaron kind of didn't know what he wanted to do. They came back and said, we'll give you one more season. And that third season was absolutely phenomenal. And it was, he hit on everything he wanted to do in that third season. And he got a nice little bow. It ended, and you kind of knew where the characters were heading. And I will always take something like that over one season.
There you go. And we're going to leave it at that at this point. We're going to wrap up another one. No power in the verse can stop us, but time can stop this particular podcast for now. So thanks, everybody, once again, all of my friends on the panel here, everybody listening. It was always great to have you with us. For Billy, for Tanya, for Becca, for Tony, for Wayne, for Dee, for Sybil, for Wally Mathers as the Beaver, and myself, Chris, speaking to you from the studios of WFC3. This has been Monkey Business.
Thank
you.
A Mighty Monkey production. Mighty Monkey Productions of Rochester, New York, creators and presenters of the Flower City Comic-Con, presenting their second show May 20th and 21st of 2017 at the Rochester Riverside Convention Center. Follow us on Facebook. www.facebook.com/FC3ROC.